Hello and welcome to Immersion Live. My name is Scott, and today we're going to be talking about exit tickets and how you can use those to help engage your students and make it apparent what they learned in class that day. So, before we go and watch our little short intro, my name is Scott. You're watching Immersion Live, where we're all about comprehension-based instruction in the modern language classroom. And we'll be right back. And welcome back, everybody. How's everybody doing today? It's the start of a new week. We're about halfway through the month of March already. And that is not what I want to be showing right this moment. Bear with me one second while I fix this. What I want to be hiding. This is what we want to be seeing. Sorry about that. I thought that all fixed up. So let's go ahead and talk about exit tickets. And first I want to talk about what kind of exit tickets are we talking about. There are lots of different types of exit tickets that you can use in your classroom. But the main ones that I like to use are the following. So I prefer, number one, to get like a type of summary about what we did in class that day. So it could be just asking a couple easy questions at the end of the period about what they learned that day, those simple type of things. Give me 3 things you learned today, answer a couple true-false questions or a simple multiple choice question. It could be a reflection question. Any of those types of things is one type of an exit ticket. And bear with me one second. My computer is going really slow for whatever reason. Okay, computer. I really don't want this to be happening. There we go. Sorry about that. So that's one type of exit tickets that you can use. Other ones could be an extension of something that they learned in class to transform it to something new from what was originally created. So it could be, give me a new ending to the story. It could be, change up what happened in the middle of the story. Any of those types of things like that. We can also do a review of a novel chapter where they can tell me what happened at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the novel chapter. Any of those types of things to give me a quick little summary to make sure they paid attention to what was going on. If we did a conversation that we did that day, let's say we're talking about a conversation, and then I might want them to summarize their answer and give me a new answer. Let's say if we ask them, what would you do if you had a hippo as a pet? Then I want them in the exit ticket to, they've already responded in class, but just to put that back into their own ideas. So that's another type of an exit ticket. So basically what an exit ticket is, what we're talking about is just a quick student summary of whatever they did in class that day to show evidence of their learning. And that's what's important along the way. And it's just a quick, informal assessment to be able to see, were they paying attention? What did they get from this? It could also be, you can have them ask if there's any questions they have about the lesson. Students are always hesitant to ask questions in class, so this gives them an opportunity to ask any questions at the end of the day about anything they were unclear about, and then you can address them the next day or personally with the student, however you want to handle that. But all of those things are great ways to be able to watch all of that stuff. So that is what kind of exit tickets that I do. If you do something different, you have different types of exit tickets, please feel free to put them in the comments in the chat and let us know which ones that you do that are different than what I do. But those are basically the ones that I do in my classroom that covers what I cover with them. But there's always great ideas, and I'm always willing to learn new ideas about things that may or may not be, that I may or may not use already. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the different formats. Historically, people do things on paper, and that's great to some degree. But for an exit ticket, for me, I think paper generally is a waste. I don't want to waste paper on an exit ticket. Plus, it's really hard for me to aggregate the data from an exit ticket if it's on paper. But that's still the original way to do it. So you can go ahead and have kids use a half a sheet of paper. They can, cut it into fours and share it with someone and write their answers or give the exit ticket on a piece of paper and turn that in. But that's not my most favorite way to collect my exit tickets. Probably the best and easiest way for data collection is using a Google form. So you can have students fill out a Google form on some type of activity. So for example, let's say we're doing our conversation, and our conversation today was, what was your favorite ice cream? Hola, Peyton. What was your favorite ice cream flavor? So students can go ahead and then you can put the question in the target language on a Google form. You can make it multiple choice with an other, and they can fill it in. And then you have the data that you can collect from that. Or if you want to know, the three things that the students learned from the chapter of the novel that you're doing. So then you can make an open-ended question and then have students answer it. And with all Google Forms, you can aggregate the data in a Google Sheet, which is really cool. It's really easy to kind of look at your data really quickly overall throughout a class or a level. Just, you can go right through and see the answers to all the questions in a nice, easy one-stop shop, which I really like. And what's even better is you can have all of your Google Forms empty into one Google Sheet. So you're not always looking for different Google Sheets. They'll come up as a different tab at the bottom of your Google Sheet, but you can have one Google Sheet called Exit Tickets, and then each exit ticket Google form that you create will empty into that Google Sheet, but a different tab for each one. So I like using it that way because I have one place to be able to search and see everything at once. So Google Forms is a really great and easy way to be able to aggregate the data on an exit ticket. And any type of exit ticket that you can do on paper, it's easily transformable into a Google form. And Google Forms are so easy, so free. And as I said, when they aggregate the data into a spreadsheet, it makes the information really easy for you to act upon. Whether you need to gather the information to see where are there holes in my students' learning, that's one great way to use that. Or if you're getting feedback, you could be using things like that. And another example would be when I create characters with students, I often will ask two questions at the end of our character building. So we spent this time building this character, and usually we will attribute a main emotion that is associated with my character that we created. So it could be anger, it could be love, it could be, friendliness, any of those types of things. But I ask 2 exit ticket questions at the end of that, at the end of the day. One, why do they feel the way that they do? Why do they have that emotion? And what's their deepest, darkest secret? So I'll take that information and then I can use it when I fill it all in. Then I can find any commonalities, and then I can aggregate that information. And then next day, for an warm up, I can make another Google form where they vote. So I can take maybe the top 3 to 5 reasons for that emotion and put them in a multiple choice situation. And then I can put the top 5 deepest, darkest secrets and put that in there as a warm up. And then when the kids answer that, I can aggregate that data and I can use that when we create a story. So I won't give them the results of that, but I have the results of that so that I can ask leading questions to get us to what the class as a whole chose. And so that's another great way for you to use exit tickets with your character building, or perhaps even in the construction of the character. So let's say you say, I know, like La Maestra Loca, she hates voting in class or arguing about what is going to be. And she uses little dice that you can write on and then erase. That's one way that she does it. You can do a spinning wheel. But another way is, let's say we're going to do a character tomorrow, and I know that. I can set up an exit ticket at the end of the day for them to go ahead and put all the different characteristics that they want. Like, what kind of character do you want? Do you want it to be an animal? Do you want it to be a thing? Do you want it to be a person? Do you want it to be a boy or a girl? Do you want it to be big or small? I can put this all in target language, make it in a Google form, and then the kids make all the decisions. Where does it live? How old it is? They answer all that information. Then I can aggregate it into a Google Sheet, and then I can use that information to build this character with the student as a class. And it works really, really well to do that. If you're not the kind who likes kids to vote, I prefer to have my kids vote. We do that live in class. It allows me to use the subjunctive. How many people want that the character be? And so that invokes the subjunctive in Spanish and French. And so that's how I can put that in there. And it works really, really nicely for that. So those are the 2 main formats. The third format that I like is video. Now, many of your LMSs, your learning management systems, will have a video response option built in. But if not, flip.com, it used to be called Flipgrid, is a great way for students to be able to record a response and to some kind of an exit question. And it also allows you to kind of evaluate their speaking skills if you ask them to do it in the target language. Why I like flip.com over my LMS does not allow it to be a certain length. Once it hits a certain point, it cuts them off. And there's a couple other glitches that go along with it. It's not as versatile. So some kids like to use flip.com. They can be more creative. They can blur their background. They can change their backgrounds. They can be a little more creative. Or some people like to use things like Screencastify or Loom. They record it there, and then they can upload it to the LMS to turn in. I love using flip.com for these exit type tickets because I get a visual representation of what students know. And it's a little bit more personable than a Google form or a piece of paper. The only problem is it doesn't aggregate data like a Google form does, but I get to know the kids' names at the beginning of the school year. It helps me to learn their names much quicker. And over the course of multiple of these, I get a really good sense of what students know and can do in speaking the language. I can see how confident they are. I can see if, they are reading from a text, so that means they're not so confident. I can tell that they're not reading from a text and they're doing pretty well, or they're not reading from a text and they're struggling with getting the words out. I get a really good sense of their overall speaking that way. And kids like to do it because it allows some of them to be more creative. Some kids, don't just do their bare basics, and that's perfectly okay. But it's a really quick and easy. It takes less than 30 seconds once they're logged in to record their video. Some kids get a little OCD with it and go, oh, that wasn't a perfect video, and they keep re-recording it. But they don't have to do that. They're not being graded on their recording ability. I'm just grading them on what they said and how well they said it. That's all that's important. But the same kind of questions you can ask can be asked on a video format instead. Give me 3 things you learned today. Tell me 3 things about the novel that we read today. Answer the class question of the day. All of those things are great ways that they can use these video the video exit tickets, like on flip.com, Screencastify, Loom, or right within the learning management system. Again, if there's any questions, comments, or other ideas, please feel free to put them in the chat. And also, if you are watching on the replay, again, you can go ahead and put them in the comment section. I do go back, read them, and I do answer back. So now let's talk about the different ideas that you can, different things you can do with the exit tickets. And with that, I've got a list that I want to put up here. There we go. Let me move that right there so we can see it there better. Okay. So here's are the different types of questions that I generally ask. This is not an exhaustive list, obviously, but these are the common ones that I like to ask my students and have them do on exit tickets. So one thing that you learned today. So whatever you did in class, it's really versatile. That can happen for anything. So what did you learn today is a really generic one, and it goes with any kind of activity that you did in class that day. It doesn't have to be a specific activity. One thing that you learned today, it could be, I usually do it 3 things. 3 things that you learned today, however you want to do it. Another one, and this is really good for an impromptu, informal speaking assessment. But again, make it informal, formative assessment, because you can't really tell if the kids are reading from something, or kids often, they play the game where they stop, pause, stop, pause, stop, pause. So doesn't look like they're reading, but they memorize a line, they pause, and they start again. So you can't really use it as a summative assessment, but as a formative assessment, you can have them retell the day's story, or retell the story with a new ending. Any of those types of things are a great way to summarize that story back and get some information on an exit ticket. But that one is specific. It's specific to doing a story that day, whether it be a reading that you read or a class story that you did with actors. All those things are great for a retell with today's story. 3 things from today's reading. I use that one a lot. So when we're reading a novel, we don't usually cover a novel necessarily a day. So whatever we read that day, tell me 3 things that happened in what we read that day. I do that one a lot. Or if we're reading like an extended reading, then they can tell me 3 things from the extended reading that they remember from the story. Kind of a combination of that, or an extension of that. When we do a picture talk, I can have them tell me 3 things from the picture that they remember. So I'll do that one as well. And the movie talk goes along with the retell today's story. You can do that with a movie talk. Conversations. We do conversations once a week in my class, and we have a conversation question of the day. I do this in place of weekend talk because weekend talk kind of gets boring a lot of the times. We come up with a question, then we talk about that question. So I just ask them to answer the question again, but this time on an exit ticket. Usually these are video that I like to do with those ones. Answer a reflection question. So reflection questions for me are done in English because no matter what level a student is, they don't have enough language skills to express their ideas and their thought processes in the second language. So I have them do this in English or whatever their common language is. I usually do this digitally as well. They can answer it using our LMS or a Google Doc, or it can be an open-ended Google form to answer this. But they can also do this on video and give me an oral reflection of what they're thinking about a particular question. We have about 25 to 30 reflection questions that I use and I reuse depending on the time of the year to have them reflect upon their learning, what's working for them, what's not working for them, all of those types of things, and get them into that metacognition thinking along the way. If we talked about something controversial, I don't want to put kids on the spot. Some kids have no trouble telling you how they feel about a particular controversial item, but others are less likely to open up in the classroom. So then I have them do that in an exit ticket. Do you agree or disagree with today's topic? Why or why not? So that can help in that particular way. What emoji? This is a fun one that kids love to use emojis. So what would describe your learning? Which emoji would you pick to describe your learning? So they have to think about it. This is kind of a little bit of a reflection, but in a different way. And then through all of the emojis, they have to think of which one applies to their particular learning for that day. How are you doing today, especially post-COVID? The emotional state of students is always in a flux. It was difficult before with all the hormones coming when they're teenagers and, social pressure, peer pressure, social media pressure, all kinds of those things. But then COVID hit and made everything 10 times worse. So asking a reflection question, how are you doing today? You can have them answer in sentences. You can have them answer with emojis. You can have multiple choice with the emojis. You can even add in there, if they need to talk about it, that, they can check a mark and then you can refer them to the counselor. Any of that type of thing. If someone's talking about something that's really serious, it's really down for them. They're having trouble, there's a death in the family, or they're going through a divorce with their family, or a pet died. Some of those things might need a little bit more, what's the word I want to use? Counseling help. So they can check a box there, and then you'll let them know that you'll forward their information on to the counselor. And then you can also do like a comprehension check. Lots of times, a lot of us teachers will do comprehension checks with the fingers. 10 fingers means you understood 100%, 9, 90%, 5, 50%. But some kids are hesitant to give an honest answer when their peers can see what they put. So you can have them rate on a Google form. You just put it on there, rate your understanding of the language today, and then put it down from 0 to 10. I will sometimes put this in our learning management system. We have a place called lesson tiles. And so I put a tile down for each major activity for the day. So like on Monday, we might be doing a story. And Tuesday, we're also doing a story. So each of my tiles say story and story. Wednesday's a shorter day, so I usually do my conversations on that day. That used to be on Monday. They switched to Wednesday this year. So that'll be my conversation. So Wednesday will say conversations. Thursday, let's say we're doing a reading. So I'll put reading down there. We also do our quick write that day. So I'll have a tile for the quick write on Thursday. And then Friday, let's say we are doing a write and discuss. So I'll have a tile for a write and discuss. But then I'll add a next tile, and that will be how well did you understand language this week, or how well did you understand the lesson this week? And kids can answer those questions, and they're private, so the kid, no one else can see them but me. And so that helps. That's another place where I can stick my my exit tickets right in there. But again, when I do it there, I can't aggregate the data. So I do prefer to use a Google form, because a Google form, I can aggregate data so much better. So those are the ideas that I have with exit tickets. They are quick, they are easy, and it really gives me a pulse of what my kids are getting from my class on a regular basis. You don't have to do them every day. You can do them once or twice a week. Like I said, when I do the one at the end of my lesson tiles, it's done for after Friday for them to give me the information about how well they understood the week's lesson for that particular week. So do it when it feels convenient for you, when you need some more data to see where your kids are. Are you not sure if your kids are getting it? Oh, I just thought of another great question I sometimes ask. Do you think the class was going too fast or too slow today? And that can be not only your speaking pace, but at the pace the material is coming. Do you think we're going too fast through this or too slow? So if you're not sure, ask the questions. That can also help you as a teacher when you ask questions like that. You're getting feedback for the kids learning, but also on how to best teach that particular group of kids. So exit tickets can be very useful for a lot of different reasons. If any of you have any ideas for additional exit tickets, any questions you ask, again, please feel free to put them into the comments. And even if you're watching the replay, welcome, and I will go back and read through those as well and answer them. But if there are no other questions, that is all for this week. Next week, same time, same channel, I'm going to talk about my weekly teacher routine. So what I do to keep myself organized, the types of things I teach in a typical week, but not only my class routine, like what do I teach on Monday? What do I teach on Tuesday? But also my behind the scenes. What do I do to stay organized? What do I do to keep grading at bay? What do I do to communicate with students and families? All of those things that comprise what I do from Monday at 6:30 in the morning until Friday at 2:36, because I don't usually work on school stuff on the weekends at all. So that's what we're going to be talking about next time. So if that's something of interest to you, we'll be back on Monday, same time, same channel, 5 p.m. Pacific, just like always. And if you got value out of this in any way, shape, or form, I greatly appreciate if you could like and subscribe to the channel. It helps get the information out to other teachers so that they can also benefit from the information. And with that, I will say goodbye to everybody until next week. See you later. Have a good one, everyone.